Hey everyone, Jeff here from Films at Home. Thanks for coming back to the channel today for this 4K review. Today we're diving into the world of Al Capone and gangsters of the 1920s and 30s Prohibition era with the Untouchables. This is the new 4K Steelbook release that I have here from Paramount, so we'll be diving into the video quality, audio quality, I'll talk packaging and special features, and ultimately whether or not this one's going to be worth picking up for your collection. Now, if you enjoy Blu-ray reviews, 4K reviews, you like collecting movies, physical media, or you just like movies in general, I think you'll enjoy the channel. So please subscribe, help us hit our goal of 100,000 subscribers. I'd really appreciate that. And make sure your notifications are on. Now, let's get into the review. So The Untouchables arrives here from Paramount on 4K for the first time on this format with what I assume is a new 4K scan or at least a remastering. The movie was shot on 35mm using Panavision cameras and it's pretty well detailed. The Blu-ray, however, was a little bit washed out once I started comparing it to the 4K disc, and you can really see that it's a little bit more processed on the brightness and contrast, and it was not a great Blu-ray. It definitely has some washed out colors and some issues with detail, possibly even some DNR was used there, so not my favorite Blu-ray in the world. When you compare it to the 4K, you are going to notice that the 4K is fairly dark. It's a much darker picture than what the Blu-ray gave you, but a lot of that was because it's not so washed out. I think they corrected some of the color in a good way, but at other times I also saw it be almost a little too dark, which can be an issue with HDR from time to time. Dolby Vision, if you have that, it could help it a little bit more than HDR10, but ultimately I thought that the movie had a few moments that were probably too dark for me. It's by far not a perfect 4K transfer here. It's not one of Paramount's best. It's not one of the best on the format, but in the context of the movie in The Untouchables, it is a pretty stark contrast to what the Blu-ray was able to give us, and it's certainly a nice step in the right direction and by far the best the movie's ever looked. Detail-wise, the 4K resolution does give you a nice uptick in quality. Obviously, with 35mm being shot on film, we're upgrading to 4K. That always helps, and it looked like they removed whatever sort of processing or DNR may have been done on the previous Blu-ray. That was removed here. You had more grain, it was more well structured and kind of consistent because it was on a 4K disc and 4K resolution, but you will notice that it is a little bit more filmic, and that's a good thing. I think it looks more like it's probably supposed to than it did on Blu-ray. So overall, you know, pretty good. Larry David there for some reason just came out in me, but pretty good, but just not one of the best I've seen from Paramount or, you know, the best on this format. I would say it's a solid 4 out of 5. Like, it's a good transfer, it's just not a great transfer. Now, the audio here is a pretty significant upgrade. It does give you Dolby Atmos, and that is a nice leap forward over the Blu-ray as well. I would say the audio difference, if you're really listening, is probably a noticeable difference in a few scenes, but, you know, honestly, the Atmos really just helps with, you know, sound effects and some of the, you know, movement around the screen of a gunshot or an explosion or things like that. So the Untouchables has some of those moments, but it also does help with dialogue. Clarity is a lot better on the dialogue. I thought it was a more well-balanced track. I mean, it's not going to be like night and day, which often is the case with like Atmos versus already a great HD track, but there are definitely some moments where Atmos steps up and really provides a better sound. I thought the bass and the low frequency was a little bit better. I mean, it's just a more well-balanced modern audio mix than what we previously had. So overall, audio and video, I mean, I'd give it a 4 out of 5. It's not going to make a top 10 list this year. It's not going to be one of the better 4K discs you've ever seen. But again, in the context of this movie, and this movie in particular, this is the best the movie's ever looked. And for that reason, I do think it's worth picking up on 4K. Now, packaging and special features here, I'll just be upfront. Special features, they're all ported over from the previous Blu-ray, so nothing there. A little bit disappointing. But I do have the Steelbook package, which I thought was pretty nice. It's got some decent artwork, pretty nice stuff. Only a 4K disc, though. No Blu-ray disc included. So I thought that was interesting. There is a digital code, though, which will redeem in 4K. So you get that. And then the standard packaging is also available, which has different artwork, but again, not just like boring theatrical art, which I kind of like what they did. So So the slipcover version's nice, Steelbook version's nice. I don't think you can really go wrong with either one. So overall, I would recommend the Untouchables on 4K simply because this is the best this movie's ever looked, and it does correct a lot of sort of glaring issues now with that Blu-ray release from, probably 10 years ago now at this point. I don't know exactly when that came out, but it's been a while. And that Blu-ray has some issues, and the 4K corrects more of those issues, which is a good thing. There are definitely more pros than cons on the 4K disc. So I'd recommend it. If you're a fan of the Untouchables, this is the best you're ever going to see this movie, unless you found some pristine 35mm print somewhere. This is as good as it gets for home viewing. It's just not going to stand up to other great transfers from even the 70s or 80s, or even earlier than that. It's either a source issue, it's either just not the best transfer, they had to fix some processing on an old master and it kind of screwed with the new one. I don't know why, because we didn't get any info on this restoration process from Paramount, but I don't think it's one of their best, but within context of the movie, this is pretty good. So if you want to pick up the Untouchables on 4K, I'll leave a link down in the description. That helps support my channel by buying through Amazon. You can also buy it at lots of other places as well, but the Steelbook is pretty widespread and you should be able to get it fairly easily. So thanks for watching this review. Make sure you're subscribed and following us along on social media as well. All those links will be in the description. Also, make sure to check out all the links to all my different partners down in the description. By supporting them, you really are supporting me and my channel and my content, so I appreciate it. But at the end of the day, thank you for watching. That's the biggest thing. You watched, you came out to this video, and I appreciate that the most. So thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Stay safe, stay healthy out there, and I'll talk to you all soon.